Okay guys, so in this video I'm going to show you exactly the reason why I never start with the club behind the ball, and by the time you've watched this video you're going to understand exactly the reasons why, and you're probably going to end up doing something like this too. So when it comes to setting up to the golf ball, there's a few things that we have to do. Now the first thing that I always do is I always stand behind the golf ball, and the second thing that I do is I sort of tilt the club at like a 45-degree angle like so, and what I'm doing now is I'm sort of at the top portion of the club shaft is focusing on my target, so in this case that 150-yard marker, and then I'm going to choose something at the bottom portion of the club shaft that's going to align towards something that's going to be within inside my peripheral vision. So for example here, halfway between the brick is absolutely perfect to obviously my starting direction. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my club face would be pointing in that sort of direction like so. Now the second thing that we're going to do is obviously make sure that we stand parallel towards that sort of position. Now personally, I was somebody who grew up and was very much influenced by people like Faldo. And obviously the golf coaches that I used to have lessons from were equally very much invested by Faldo. Faldo was somebody who was very, very methodical. And he would talk a lot about a similar sort of process: line the club up, keep it there, walk into the shot, have a check, look, have a check. The problem for myself is that never suited me. I always felt like I was stuck over the golf ball, and even when I tried to introduce things like, you know, a trigger and a wrist hinge, I still felt very, very much stuck. So what I started to notice is that I could do things slightly differently. So I would still stand very much behind the ball, as I explained previously. The second thing that we're doing with our stance, once we have our alignments, is we're trying to concentrate on where the ball position would be located. And you need your ball position to be relative to your low point, okay? So for myself, I have the ball position much further forward. The reason why I've had the ball position further forward is because I like to move very much to my lead side in my golf swing. For people that don't choose to move as much to the left, you would need to have the ball position more central or slightly further back. However, what I started to realize is if I start with the club like so, which might seem like quite quirky, I can make sure that my club face is just aiming slightly to the left of the target here, so I'm still parallel towards it. But then from here, look, I can just get my lead foot in line with my lead ankle, and then I can take my right stance, and then I now know that by the time I position that club head behind the ball, it's going to be in the perfect location where it's a club head's distance inside of my lead ankle. And the point that I'm trying to make, and I transparently do this, right? The point that I'm trying to make is no longer, I choose my target, okay? I know that I'm aiming halfway in between the brick. I'm going to rest the club there, get my feet parallel, line it up towards the instep of my ankle, and now I know that the club is perfectly aligned and I don't have to fidget and feel like I'm stuck, and I can just pull the trigger and just go very much for the hit. And then that way for myself, it worked. And what I've started to see for a lot of my students and amateur golfers is they've started to do similar things in terms of their routine. And if you can feel less stuck over the golf ball and more liberated, I promise you there's a really good chance that your results are massively going to improve.